While you're watching this video, America is burning through $1 million in interest payments every single minute. We're not talking about the debt itself, we're talking about just the interest, over $1 trillion a year, gone. And that money? It's coming from your pocket. America's debt isn't just big, it's 38 trillion big. To put that in perspective, if you spent $1 million every single day for the past 2,000 years, you still wouldn't have spent 38 trillion. Not even close, but the debt itself, that's just the headline. The real nightmare is what's happening underneath. States are cracking. Housing markets are imploding, jobs are vanishing like free samples at Costco. And when, not if, but when, the next recession hits, it's not going to politely knock on Wall Street's door. It's going to kick down the doors of already dying states and finish the job. The cracks are spreading fast, and 15 states are standing directly in the blast zone. So who's going down first? Let's count them down. Texas. The state that loves to brag about being recession-proof. Spoiler, it's not. Texas has a $2.8 trillion economy, massive, but it's dangerously concentrated in three volatile industries: energy, tech, and real estate. And all three are flashing red warning lights. Oil alone is 15% of state GDP. But prices have crashed from $110 to $78 per barrel, stripping billions from state revenue overnight. Housing is a mixed disaster. Median home price jumped 45% since 2019 to $335,000. But with 7% mortgage rates, sales have plunged 40%. In Austin, active listings surged 78% in 1 year. Translation: nobody's buying. Prices are about to tank. Rent isn't helping either. Dallas and Houston now average $1,800 a month, draining disposable income and killing consumer spending. And remember Texas's famous population boom? Yeah, that's straining everything. The 2021 power grid failure caused $130 billion in damage. The grid is still vulnerable. In a recession, the state won't have money to fix it. Jobs are disappearing too. Tesla, Dell, Amazon, all announcing layoffs. If unemployment hits just 6%, Texas loses 400,000 jobs in months. Insurance costs are skyrocketing due to hurricanes, floods, and extreme heat. Businesses are starting to ask, is Texas even worth it anymore? The Lone Star State built its reputation on growth. But growth built on cheap labor and cheap energy doesn't last forever. The bill is coming due. Washington State, home of coffee, tech billionaires, and a ticking economic time bomb nobody wants to talk about. Seattle looks amazing from the outside, right? Shiny skyscrapers. Amazon, Microsoft, the future. But here's what they don't tell you. The median home price is $790,000. Meanwhile, the median household income? $97,000. Do the math. Even if you saved every penny, no food, no gas, no Netflix, it would take you over 8 years just to afford the down payment. And that's assuming prices don't go up. Spoiler alert, they will. But wait, it gets better. Washington's entire economy basically runs on 3 things: tech, planes, and shipping. Amazon, Microsoft, and Boeing employ over 400,000 people. That's great, until it isn't. Because these companies are already laying people off and moving operations overseas. If there's even a modest 10% cut across these 3 giants, that's 40,000 jobs gone overnight. Washington has no income tax. They fund everything through sales and property taxes. So when people stop buying stuff during a recession, the state budget gets absolutely obliterated. Oh, and homelessness? Already at 52,000 people, in a recession that number could double. Washington looks rich, but it's standing on a house of cards built with Amazon Prime boxes. New York, the financial capital of the world. The Empire State. And it's about to come crashing down. New York's $2.6 trillion economy leans heavily on Wall Street, commercial real estate, and corporate services. When markets stumble, New York bleeds. Fast. A 10% drop in financial sector earnings wipes out $6 billion in state tax revenue. That's enough to force massive cuts to schools, housing, and public transportation. Manhattan's office market is imploding. Vacancy rates hit 21%, highest since 1994. Remote work killed demand for office space. In some neighborhoods, commercial property values dropped 30%. That puts serious pressure on the city's $60 billion property tax base. In a recession, that gap could exceed $8 billion. Living costs are insane. Median rent in NYC, $4,200 a month. Average home price, $740,000. Over 40% of residents spend more than half their income just on housing, and people are fleeing. Since 2020, over 650,000 residents left New York, taking tax dollars and talent with them. Retail vacancies in Manhattan are over 18%. Small businesses are dying. The state's debt? $390 billion. Pension liabilities? Over $300 billion. New York is a financial powder keg. When the recession deepens, layoffs across finance, real estate, and tech will ripple outward, shrinking the tax base and undermining everything. For decades, New York symbolized American dominance. Soon, it may symbolize American collapse. Alaska, the last frontier. Beautiful, remote. And economically, absolutely terrifying. Here's the problem. Alaska gets 85% of its revenue from one thing: oil. That's it. When oil prices drop, the entire state basically stops working. In 2020, oil dropped below $40 a barrel. Alaska lost $1.5 billion in tax revenue in months. The state nearly went bankrupt, and now, oil is on its way out. The world is moving toward renewables. Alaska's golden goose is dying, and they have no plan B. Meanwhile, living in Alaska costs a fortune. Groceries are 35% more expensive than the mainland. Heating bills have jumped 28% in 1 year. The median home is $400,000. And sure, people make decent money, around $86,000. But after paying for insane living costs, there's nothing left. Alaska's rainy day fund, the money they saved up for emergencies, used to be $17 billion. Now, it's down to $3 billion. They've been bleeding money for years. Oh, and people are leaving. Alaska has lost population for 6 years straight. Younger workers are fleeing to cheaper states. Tourism is down 40%. Fishing is collapsing. When the next recession hits, Alaska won't experience a slowdown. It'll experience a free fall, and there's no safety net left to catch them. Louisiana, the state that produces 10% of America's energy. You'd think they'd be rolling in cash, right? Wrong. The median household income is $57,000. Nearly 18% of people live in poverty. And the state debt? Over $20 billion and climbing. So where's all that oil money going? Great question. Nobody seems to know. Here's what we do know. Louisiana lost 12,000 energy jobs between 2020 and 2024. Refineries are closing. Investment is drying up. And when oil prices drop, the state loses hundreds of millions in revenue almost instantly. But the oil industry isn't even Louisiana's biggest problem. The biggest problem is climate. Every hurricane season now costs billions. Hurricane Ida alone? $75 billion in damage. And Louisiana's coastline is literally disappearing. One football field every 100 minutes. Entire neighborhoods are sinking into the Gulf of Mexico. Tourism is struggling too. Hotels in New Orleans are running 15% below pre-pandemic levels. Crime is up. Insurance costs have exploded, up 63% in 3 years. Louisiana is sitting on a pressure cooker. The heat is rising, and when it blows, the entire state could go with it. Delaware, tiny state. Massive problems. With under 1 million people, Delaware's economy depends almost entirely on corporate registrations, finance, and banking. The sectors that collapse first in a recession. 60% of Fortune 500 companies are incorporated in Delaware. But most don't actually operate there. It's an illusion of stability. Corporate filing fees and franchise taxes account for 41% of state revenue. If companies downsize or shut down, Delaware's revenue vanishes instantly. One downturn could remove $1.5 billion from the state budget, pushing Delaware into deficit overnight. We've seen this before. In 2008, business filings fell 38% in 1 year. The state nearly went broke. Housing is getting expensive too. Median home price, $390,000, up 47% in 5 years. Average rent in Wilmington, $1,700 a month. With only 500,000 active workers, even a 2% job loss, 10,000 people, is devastating. That's like wiping out an entire town. Trade is slowing too. The Port of Wilmington is feeling the effects of weaker global shipping. As exports decline, logistics jobs disappear. Delaware has no diversified economy, no broad tax base, just paper wealth and Wall Street profits. When the recession hits, Delaware could flip from surplus to crisis in months. Small economies fall the fastest. Arizona was supposed to be the land of opportunity. Sunshine, growth, the American dream. Instead, it's turning into a nightmare. The population exploded past 7.5 million people. That sounds great until you realize they don't have enough water. 36% of Arizona's water comes from the Colorado River, which is shrinking every single year. The federal government has already mandated water cuts. Farms are losing $1.3 billion in revenue. Cities like Scottsdale are warning about water rationing. Imagine that, in 2026, in America. Being told you can't water your lawn because there's not enough water, and the housing market? Total chaos. The median home price shot up to $435,000, a 60% jump since 2019. But incomes barely moved. Mortgage rates are over 7%. Foreclosures are up 45%. People are literally losing their homes in the desert. Jobs are disappearing too. Intel pulled back on expansion. Construction permits are down 41%. Homelessness is up 31%. Even Arizona's brutal heat is becoming a problem. Summers now regularly hit 115 degrees. Retirees who used to flock there are starting to avoid it. For the first time in a decade, migration is slowing. Arizona bet everything on endless growth. But you can't grow without water, and the well is running dry. California, once the fifth largest economy on the planet, now teetering on the edge of historic collapse. The $4.5 trillion economy relies on real estate, entertainment, and tech. All three are pulling back hard. Silicon Valley alone lost 90,000 jobs since 2022. Meta, Google, Tesla, all slashing payrolls. In San Francisco, office vacancy rates hit a record 36%. Downtown is a ghost town. Housing turned from wealth symbol to liability. Median home price, $760,000. With 7% mortgage rates and skyrocketing insurance, affordability hit its worst level in 40 years. Home sales plunged 45% from the 2021 peak. Foreclosures up 31%. Even rich areas like Marin County and Santa Clara County are seeing listings pile up with no buyers. The population exodus is alarming. California lost residents for 4 years straight. Over 800,000 people left since 2020. Businesses are following. High taxes, heavy regulation, rising costs. Companies are fleeing. Oracle, Tesla, dozens of mid-sized tech firms, all relocated to Texas, Nevada, Florida. IRS data shows this exodus cost California an estimated $56 billion in taxable income. The state is facing a $68 billion deficit. Income tax revenue collapsed as high earners moved away. California is also dealing with 180,000 homeless people, record insurance costs, and persistent water shortages threatening agriculture. When the recession intensifies, California won't just slow down. It risks a complete unraveling of its housing market, tax base, and identity. The Golden State is losing its shine, fast. New Jersey looks rich on paper, high incomes, proximity to New York. Nice suburbs, but dig deeper, and you'll find a state drowning in debt. New Jersey's public debt is over $240 billion. That's $26,000 for every single person in the state. Property taxes average $9,800 a year, the highest in the country, and overall living costs? About 15% above the national average. So yeah, people make decent money. But they're also getting absolutely crushed by taxes and costs. The economy is fragile too. New Jersey relies heavily on finance, pharmaceuticals, and real estate. When the economy slows, all three collapse. Office vacancies in Newark and Jersey City are already over 25%. Companies are fleeing to cheaper states. Pharma has cut 20,000 jobs in the past decade. And pensions, total disaster. The state pension system is underfunded by $95 billion. If the stock market crashes, that gap explodes even wider. Infrastructure is crumbling too. Over 40% of roads are rated poor. Decades of deferred maintenance coming home to roost. Housing is insane. Median home price, $520,000. Average rent, $2,200 a month. And mortgage delinquencies are quietly rising. New Jersey is a pressure cooker wrapped in a debt bomb. When it goes off, taxpayers are the ones who will pay the price. Maryland, high incomes, nice suburbs, totally dependent on the federal government. Median household income is over $98,000, one of the highest in the country. But it's all clustered around Washington, D.C., and it's all tied to federal spending. 30% of Maryland's jobs are connected to the federal government. When D.C. cuts budgets, freezes hiring, or reduces contracts, Maryland gets hammered. The private sector can't pick up the slack. Manufacturing dropped 20%. Small businesses struggle with high costs. State debt is over $40 billion. Pension liabilities will increase by another $5 billion by 2026. Housing is under pressure. Median home price, $445,000. Monthly mortgage payments jumped 38% in 2 years. Delinquencies are rising quietly, especially among middle-class families who bought at the peak in 2021. Baltimore is struggling. Crime is up. Population is down. 20,000 residents left since 2020. Downtown office vacancy rates hit 28%. Even the Port of Baltimore, which moves $80 billion in trade annually, is seeing exports drop sharply. Maryland looks affluent, but it's built on federal spending and an overheated housing market. When D.C. cuts back, the whole state suffers. One recession could undo decades of prosperity. Indiana, the heartland. Manufacturing country, blue-collar backbone of America. And it's about to get absolutely gutted. Manufacturing makes up 27% of Indiana's economy. That's the highest concentration in the nation, and when a recession hits, those factories shut down fast. In 2024 alone, Indiana lost 18,000 manufacturing jobs. Analysts say another 40,000 could disappear if the recession deepens. That's entire towns being wiped off the map. The auto industry is especially vulnerable. Plants in Kokomo, Fort Wayne, and Lafayette are tied to exports and supply chains connected to China and Mexico. With trade tensions rising and EV investment slowing, those factory towns could see unemployment hit 9% levels not seen since 2008. And housing? Slipping away fast. Median home price jumped 35% since 2020 to $275,000, but wages barely budged. Rural families are getting crushed by rising utility bills and grocery costs, up 19% in 2 years. Even Indiana's reputation for fiscal discipline won't save it. The state relies on sales and income taxes. When those drop during a recession, and they will, it punches a billion-dollar hole in the budget. Schools, healthcare, infrastructure all get cut first. Indiana built its identity on manufacturing. But that foundation is cracking, and when it breaks, the whole state goes with it. Nevada, Sin City, the entertainment capital of the world, and economically, one of the most fragile states in America. 30% of Nevada's GDP comes from tourism, hospitality, and entertainment. When Americans stop spending on fun, Nevada's economy collapses like a house of cards. We've seen this before. In 2020, Nevada's unemployment hit 28.2%, the highest in the country, and now the same warning signs are back. In 2025, visitor spending is cooling, hotel occupancy is down 12%, gaming revenue is down 8%, casinos are cutting shifts. In a deeper recession, tens of thousands of jobs vanish overnight. Housing is a disaster too. Nevada has one of the highest foreclosure rates in the nation. Home values already dropped 7% from their peak. In Reno, the median home is $565,000, completely out of reach for anyone earning under $90,000. Construction, which employs 10% of the state, is shrinking fast. That ripple spreads through the entire economy. And Nevada's tax system leaves zero margin for error. The state depends on tourism and sales taxes. When visitors disappear, revenue collapses instantly. Public debt is over $18 billion. If another recession hits, Nevada could face severe budget cuts to schools, healthcare, and housing assistance. The neon lights will keep glowing. But behind the glitz, Nevada is one bad quarter away from a full economic meltdown. Hawaii, tropical paradise, dream destination. Economic disaster zone. 1/4 of Hawaii's economy depends on tourism. When the broader economy slows, Hawaii gets absolutely crushed. In 2020, visitor arrivals dropped 75%. Unemployment spiked to 22%, second highest ever recorded, and it's happening again. Tourism is losing steam. Hotel rates in Honolulu now average $380 a night. Vacation rentals run $310. A family trip to Hawaii easily tops $8,000. Most middle-class families simply can't afford it anymore. Tourism revenue is down 11% this year. For residents, life is unbearable. Median home price on Oahu, $1.1 million. Average rent in Honolulu, $2,700 a month. Groceries cost 67% more than the mainland. Electricity bills jumped 22% in 1 year. People are leaving. Hawaii's population has declined for 6 years straight. Outmigration is accelerating. The state's finances are fragile too. Public debt is over $26 billion. Revenue is tied to visitor spending. One bad tourism year opens massive budget holes, and Hawaii imports 85% of what it consumes. Rising global costs hit hard. When the next recession spreads, Hawaii won't just lose tourists. It'll lose residents, tax revenue, and the dream that paradise could last forever. Illinois, a textbook case of a state living on borrowed time. The state has $60 billion in unpaid bills, over $140 billion in unfunded pension obligations. It's effectively insolvent. Illinois has the lowest credit rating in the country, one step above junk status. Chicago is the epicenter of the collapse. Commercial real estate vacancy rates are over 23%. Downtown property values dropped 35% since 2019. As values sink, tax revenue collapses. Major employers are leaving. Boeing, Citadel, Tyson Foods, all gone. Tens of thousands of high-paying jobs, gone. Property taxes are brutal too. Illinois has the second highest property taxes in the nation, averaging 2.1%. Median home price is $295,000, but annual property taxes often exceed $6,000. People are fleeing. Since 2020, over 340,000 residents left Illinois. The tax base is shrinking just as costs rise. Manufacturing shed 15% of jobs over the past decade. Logistics centers are slowing. With inflation eating wages and unemployment creeping towards 6%, Illinois is stuck in a doom loop, falling revenues, rising debt, accelerating outmigration. In a severe recession, credit downgrades could cut off access to loans entirely. That means layoffs and deep service cuts. Illinois isn't waiting for collapse. It's already happening in slow motion. The next recession just speeds it up. And finally, number 1, Florida, the state everyone's been moving to. The state that supposedly won the pandemic. The state that's about to experience one of the most spectacular economic crashes in American history. Florida's economy runs on tourism, real estate, and retiree money, and all three are falling apart. Tourism accounts for 25% of GDP. In 2025, hotel occupancy dropped 18%. Air travel down 22%. International visitors down 30%. Even snowbirds from the north are staying home because inflation, rents, and insurance costs made extended stays unaffordable. Real estate is cracking from within. Median home price, $410,000. Property insurance premiums exploded 68% in 2 years. The average is now $6,000 per home annually. Thousands of homeowners can't afford coverage. Major insurers are pulling out entirely. Foreclosures jumped 39%. Housing inventory is swelling across Tampa, Fort Myers, Orlando. Florida's been adding 1,000 new residents a day, but infrastructure can't keep up. Power grids, water systems, transportation, all buckling. Rising sea levels threaten $2.9 trillion in coastal real estate. Hurricane damages doubled since 2015. Hurricane Ian alone cost $113 billion. Jobs are disappearing. Construction, hospitality, retail, industries employing 40% of the workforce are shedding workers as demand cools. Tourism towns like Key West and Panama City Beach are reporting record business closures. In a full recession, Florida's model, built on tourism, real estate speculation, and retiree savings unravels faster than anywhere else. The beaches will still be there, but the dream of effortless prosperity that drew millions swept away by debt, disasters, and disillusionment. So there you have it. 15 states standing on the edge of economic oblivion. From Texas to Florida, the cracks are spreading fast. But what happens when these states start falling like dominoes? Because when Florida's real estate market collapses, when California's tax base implodes, when Illinois finally goes broke, it doesn't just stay contained, it spreads nationwide. Your 401k, your home value, your job. None of it is safe when the dominoes start falling, and we haven't even talked about what happens when the federal government can no longer bail these states out. Because with $38 trillion in debt and interest payments racing past $1 trillion a year, that day is coming faster than anyone wants to admit. So if you want to stay ahead of what's coming, if you want analysis that cuts through the noise and shows you what's actually happening instead, the headlines, hit that subscribe button right now and see you on the next video.